As summer beckons, life in Western Sydney appears to be returning to normal, 2 months since the city's gruelling second lockdown.
It's not that people are sitting and feeling hopeless and despondent. We're very much ambitious and looking forward to addressing these challenges.
Our community wants to get back to what it was like prior to the lockdowns, but we can't do it on our own.
Hidayat Ozyan is glad to be back on the job after his construction business almost went bust.
Literally, we had no work in the last 3 months during the lockdown. And it was a very stressful time for my employee and for myself. And I was thinking probably this is going to be the end of my organisation.
But the amount of work post-lockdown isn't what it used to be. Of his 25 workers, he's only been able to bring back 7.
Definitely we are not back to normal yet. So we are in just a recovery process.
As Australia's 4th largest economy, Western Sydney is often touted as the engine room of the nation. But during the city's 3-month lockdown, 12 local government areas faced tougher restrictions than the rest of Sydney.
Coming out of COVID, what we're seeing is that the national recovery isn't so clearly reflected in the Western Sydney economy. What we've seen now is that migration-fuelled economic growth pathway has not left a legacy of economic strength.
While the Morrison government talks up Australia's national recovery, recent data shows the hardest hit areas during lockdown have high rates of unemployment. As of October, the ABS says unemployment was 8% in the southwest and 8.8% in the inner southwest. That compares to 5.7% for Greater Sydney at that time. Unemployment figures released today do not include an update for those regions.
What we're seeing, for example, in parts of the southwest of Sydney is levels of unemployment around 8%, perhaps even 9%, that are as bad as what we saw in the Great Recession of the early 1990s. And it's been that casualised, marginalised worker right across the Western Sydney economy that now finds themselves either out of work or with vastly fewer hours.
Amid the bustle on the streets of Liverpool in Sydney's southwest, some small businesses continue to struggle.
Hello, how are you? Good, thank you.
Policy researcher Archana Vula tracked the impact of lockdowns locally. She says many families are still trying to make ends meet.
There's a huge spike in need for food, emergency food relief, and of course the ongoing unemployment situation in these areas. One of the main things the community leaders and the communities were talking about was this idea of divided Sydney. They very much felt that the way Southwest Sydney LGAs were treated was different to the rest of Greater Sydney. And the key question we keep getting asked is, what will you do to rectify it? How do we bring Sydney back together?
Last month, an email from the state's chief health officer was made public. It revealed that as COVID cases were soaring back in August, Dr Kerry Chant recommended outdoor masks and 5-kilometre limits across the whole city, not just in the west.
My personal reaction to the recent email that came out from Dr. Chant was that it's very reflective of what was going on in the ground in Southwest Sydney. People were very in a tangible way feeling different and targeted, and perhaps that's what really happened.
I think it was wrong, and I've asked for an apology, and I think there needs to be an inquiry into how the government responds to health advice in the future, because I don't want this to ever happen again.
As restrictions ease in New South Wales, the state government is standing by its COVID response and says it followed the advice of New South Wales Health.
So this idea that we targeted Western Sydney based on the community, based on race, is really, for me, people trying to push this concept of Western Sydney as a victim here. We took action to protect people where the highest rates of infection were.
What do you think needs to be done to address the feeling of alienation among some people in migrant communities?
Well, I think this is about economic opportunity. What we want to be able to do is make sure that people right across the community, whether they live in Western or Southwest Sydney or whether they're a migrant Australian, we want them to have a strong economic opportunity.
The next train to arrive on platform 2.
27-year-old Mohammed Abbas is getting back on his feet after a torrid 2 years.
In March 2020, when the lockdown had started, I had lost my first job because that was an in-person job, face-to-face. From that time, for about 5 to 6 months, I did not have anything, and lockdown had started. That means we were sitting idle at home.
After being unemployed for months, the international engineering graduate has just started a new job. It's a long commute from his home to his harbourside workplace.
It usually takes me about 1 hour and 30 minutes to commute from my place to Barangaroo office.
Mohammed is among the 10,000 university graduates coming out of Western Sydney each year. But according to economic geographer Philip O'Neill, there are not enough professional jobs locally to employ them.
The growth of the graduate worker in Western Sydney exceeds the growth of the graduate worker in Perth, Adelaide and Brisbane combined. There needs to be a corresponding growth in professional services employment to meet that growing workforce.
All of my friends who have graduated with me, they are still struggling to land themselves a professional job. It would be great to see more opportunities in the western suburbs.
The state government has promised a $5 billion fund to boost Western Sydney's recovery. And as the federal government heads towards the election, it's banking on the economy surging back as migration returns next year.
We can't expect the Western Sydney economy to recover either until those migration rates resume at record levels or where there's another stimulus to the Western Sydney economy.
I'm very optimistic that next year is going to be a big year for me because I'm planning to expand nationally. We're hoping that from next year we're getting more people on board.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.